Welcome to another powerful conversation in the Hidden to Heard series, where we honor the untold and the beautiful real stories of women who lead from the heart. Today, I am extremely excited to welcome Trina Greene, whose work is very much rooted in justice, truth, and empowerment. And her leadership and what she's created really does speak to my soul. So, welcome, Trina.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I'm
Looking forward
really
to this
pleased that
conversation.
I'm so pleased that you're here. I'm so pleased, and I'm really excited about what is to come next. So I just want to give the audience a little bit more information about you.
Okay.
So Trina Greene is the founder and executive director of Parenting for Liberation, a non-profit organization that supports Black parents in raising children who are free, whole, and loved. Through innovative programs, tools, storytelling, Parenting for Liberation creates healing-centered spaces that affirm Black joy, foster intergenerational connection, and build collective power. With over 15 years of experience in the non-profit leadership, Trina leads work that merges activism, healing, and education to build liberated futures for Black families. And I have to add that she is an author. She's the author of Parenting for Liberation, a guide for raising Black children, Feminist Press 2020, and her work has been featured in Essence, The Washington Post, LA Parent Magazine, and several anthologies. She has been honored as a Black feminist rising by Black Women's Blueprint and an inspirational parent by Cadre, Cadre. And just to let you know where Trina is based, Trina hails from Southern Cali. And for those of you in the UK that are not sure, it's Southern California. So she gets heat all the time. Where she lives, yeah, she's hot right now. We were talking about it. Where she lives with a brilliant black son who continues to be her greatest teacher and heartbeat of her purpose. Wow. So pleased to have you here. So I'm gonna, I guess, just dive in with the first question. So the book's mission is to help Black parents heal from historical and ongoing trauma. Could you share what that healing process looks like for a parent and why you believe it's the most critical first step towards liberating children?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And yes, I am hot over here in sunny California. Um, Greetings from the other side of of the waters. So yeah, Parenting for Liberation is my baby, in addition to my actual child. And I believe healing is necessary for Black families, Black parents, but I honestly believe healing is necessary for everyone because we all are impacted by systemic oppression and racism. So even if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm not a Black parent, please don't tune out, tune in. Um,
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
all can benefit from doing the healing work and looking at the ways that racism, colonization, imperialization, white supremacy, whatever the way that you would frame it, all of the isms have impacted all of us because we're all swimming in the very murky waters of this inequity that exists in our society. And so, as a parent, why I think that our own healing is necessary first is because we have to do the work to unlearn what we've been trained or taught or how we've been parented, to actually heal from the impact of some of the trauma that we've either experienced like directly or we've experienced indirectly, right? And so, um, even if
Yeah.
you're not in California, even if you're not in America, you could be where you are and still witness and be impacted by the violence and the brutality that you witness just on television news. And
Yeah.
so that trauma impacts the way that you parent, right? Trauma impacts the way that we show up because we're fear based. We're more afraid for our children, especially as a Black mom in America. I'm
Mm,
very afraid for the well being and safety of my child. I was very isolating of him, like not letting him be play outside, not letting him go with his
yeah.
friends. Even now, he's a teenager now. So this, I wrote this book when he was little. He's a teenager now.
Hmm.
He's getting his license. He's learning how to drive.
Oh,
And
wow.
because I've been doing the healing work, I'm okay with my Black son being on the road, but I still feel the necessary responsibility to let him understand like when you're driving, how to be safe, just the regular teenage, how to be safe, seatbelt, no cell phones. That's the traditional safety that all parents tell their children. But
Yes.
parents who are raising Black children have to have this added conversation about, if you get pulled over by the cops, here's what you should or shouldn't do. And unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
what I've learned from my healing is that yes, I can prepare my child for what could potentially happen, but I also don't want him to carry the burden of he's doing something wrong or he's inherently wrong or bad just because he's a Black
Yeah.
boy driving. It's not his
Yeah.
responsibility, but it is my responsibility to have him be self-aware, have him be critical, have him understand the right procedures to do. But also, it's my responsibility as a parent to not send my child out into the world unprepared, and also to send my child out and not be doing things to actively change the dynamics. So to not actually be doing the work to interrupt systemic oppression, to be doing the work to interrupt police violence. Like, what can I do as a parent to make sure that the society is better, not only for my child to thrive and to be
Mm-hmm.
able to drive, but for all children to be able to thrive? And so that's what I think about when I think about the book and the work. It's really about how I saw my parenting as a site of activation. I saw my
Yeah.
parenting as a site of resistance. Too often, I've been an activist my whole life, but when I became a parent, I got more activated. As
Mm-hmm.
people become parents and they become more conservative or like a little less, like I have to be more cautious. I have a child, I need to be safe, I need to slow down on my rah rah. And for me, I felt
Yeah.
more compelled because I'm like, now I have to care about the life of this other little human. And I
Yeah.
want to make sure that the world that they navigate in is safer, better, more equitable for them, their peers, and all children. So, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that very, very layered answer. And layered in terms of there are so many layers to when we are raising our children, especially our sons. So thank you for just really breaking it down and giving us the answer in such a holistic way. And I guess my second question, which leads on very nicely, really, from what you were saying, Trina, is and I hear this all of the time. I guess it's slightly different in the UK, but not that different. But many Black parents were raised with like a tough love philosophy because many of our parents were immigrants. You know, they came here to our countries with a focus and a vision. They wanted a better life for themselves and their children. Um, and so that whole realm around protecting our children from a hostile world. How can a parent begin to recognize and interrupt those inherent patterns, I guess, of fear-based parenting in their own home? And you started to touch on this in the answer to your last question.
Yeah, and I'm curious um how fear-based parenting or tough love, how that frame may show up for Black parents in the UK. Um, Different experiences, but when I talk to folks, I'm like, it's not that different. Like,
Yeah,
supremacy has its roots everywhere.
yeah,
And the impact of racism, it looks different, but some of the roots feel the same. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, so I hopefully this resonates with your UK audience as well. Um, but I think again, the healing that requires it requires a level of interrogation. So for me, uh,
Mm,
it the first step for me was to interrogate myself. Like, well, why am I showing up this way? Why am I being aggressive? Why am I not being gentle?
mm,
Like, why am I
yeah,
giving this little 3 year old like such adult responsibilities, or like putting all
yeah.
this pressure on him to be perfect and not to be dirty and to be, it didn't make sense. I'm like, he's just a child. So I had
Mm,
to interrogate why I was doing that myself. And then from there, I started to do, I'm an academic. So I started to research and start learning about things like adultification. Even
mhm,
that concept,
yeah,
it's like understanding that Black children are adultified, right? They are, and it's rooted in America, it's rooted in the transatlantic slave trade, right? It's rooted in chattel slavery because Black children were not allowed to be children; they were property, and they were forced to work. So if you want someone to labor and work, you can't see them as innocent little children
yeah,
because
yeah.
you wouldn't. We have child labor laws now, and
Mhm,
that's illegal. And
yeah,
there's still this experience of like Black children are seen as older than they really are. Black girls are seen as more promiscuous or more sexually aware
Mm,
than they really are.
mhm.
Like there's all this research that shows that regular everyday American people assume Black boys are older, Black girls are more experienced. There's
Yes.
this way that Black children are adultified because there is no space for Black children's innocence in America. Um,
Mm,
and
mm,
so And so I would say the way that Black parents can address their own fear-based parenting is to check themselves and to realize that a lot of that narrative that they've also been fed is not rooted in the reality of their children. Like all you have to do is look at your own child and be like, he's just being a little kid. Like that's what little kids
absolutely.
do. Most
Yeah.
little kids that do things like that, they get a little slap on their wrist. They get a little, okay, do better, punishment, timeout. Let me call your parents. But when Black children do the same mistakes that other children do, they're arrested, they're incarcerated, they're put in juvenile detention, they're policed in a different way. And that's not because they're inherently bad or flawed, right? And so
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
as a parent, I had to also let go of this idea that my kid was bad. He's not
Yeah.
bad. He's curious, creative,
Yeah.
playful. That's what
Yeah.
kids are. And those
Yeah.
are all beautiful things because when he gets older, as he's getting older, I can see the benefit of that. Oh, he asks really good questions. He's
Mm,
curious. He's inquisitive, right? Those are positive skills. He
yeah.
talks a lot. He challenges authority. Those are skills that you would describe a boss or the
Mm,
president of a program or the president of a company. Those are positive skills, but we have to, again, look at our children as children, allow them to be in their youthful play
yeah.
area. And also, I would say the other healing part that I didn't mention earlier is that
Mm,
it requires us to go back to our own childhoods and realize that we were just being kids
yeah.
and
Yeah.
heal from our own maybe trauma. Maybe we got in trouble for doing things that we were just being kid, like we were just children. We
Yeah.
didn't know any better. And so some of that is in order for us to create space for our children to be free, we have to also liberate ourselves and heal our own childhood trauma and let that little girl inside of us, inside of me, be like, it's okay. You were okay and you were doing your best and you were just a little girl. And that is a part of the healing, is the reparenting ourselves while we're parenting our children.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. And I think that is such a valuable um, share and point that you make, Trina, in terms of our own childhoods and how we were raised and how we hold on to those default stories. One, because we have nothing else, but two, in the recognition and the awareness that actually do we want to parent our children in exactly the same way? Or are we now recognizing that we also had to grow up quite quickly and that doesn't have to be the same for our child? And I think what I'm hearing through your answers to the question is that that healing work, that deeper work it's a really big part of the unlearning so that we can then teach our children from our own kind of perspective of, okay, this is how it feels to be a child. And,
Yeah.
almost remember that even in our adult lives, we can still be childlike and have fun with our
Oh my
kids.
gosh. That's the best part of having kids is that they remind you, especially if you were a child who was adultified yourself. Like if you were the child, I was the middle child, but like the older siblings who have to like take care of their little siblings, they have to cook, they
Yes.
have to clean, you have that responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember being the kid who, like, you walk home from school. We had latchkey kids where you just have a key and you get
Yeah.
yourself in.
Yes.
We were very much, probably more independent, more adultified at times. And so we might not have gotten a chance to play or to run around because we were taking
Yeah.
care of our little siblings or cooking dinner or doing chores, and all of that stuff is fine.
Yeah.
But the beauty of having a child is, oh my gosh, I have probably played more as an adult as a parent than I might have played when I was a kid. Like
Yeah.
just all the creative things that he wants me to ride bikes and jump, and he wants me to do indoor skydiving and jet skis and dirt bikes. And I'm just like all this like very adventurous stuff that I was a little nerd who read books. And so now he's like taking me out of my element. So there is some
Yeah.
beauty in reclaiming that childhood play that still lives inside of
Yes.
each of us now as adults. So that's also very healing for me as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And so, Parenting for Liberation is a book, but it's also a vibrant community. So, for a parent who has read this book and feels empowered by its message, what's a tangible next step that they can take to translate that personal liberation into collective action and I guess really start to build the future that they want to see for themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, Parenting for Liberation is more than a book. That's the book, right, well, this right there. On the screens, you know how your hands are actually the opposite
Yeah.
right there. Uh, so so Parenting for Liberation is a book, but it also actually is a nonprofit organization based in California. And
Hmm.
in the nonprofit, we do a lot of work to actually, the book came out of the work, to be honest, right? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't set out to write a book. I set out to build community and to understand what I was going through as a parent raising a Black child and what healing could look like for me and what liberation could look like in my home. And I practiced
Hmm.
with my child, and then I talked to other parents who are practicing with their children. And then I brought people together and we come in community and we host events. And now the organization has grown. It's been 10 years. We run a variety of programs here in California. We have a podcast, we have the book. Um, and we also run programs like the Innovation Lab. So the way I started this organization, actually, I was talking to all these parents and meeting up. And then
Yeah.
I was doing nonprofit work and someone invited me. They said, if we gave you just like $5,000 just to test this idea, what would you do? And I said, I would create Parenting for Liberation. And so now
10
10 years later,
years. Bravo.
Parenting for Liberation. Yeah, it's amazing. Shout out to the ancestors who made it possible.
Yeah.
um, but now, 10 years later, I have the opportunity to pay it forward. Parenting for Liberation hosts an innovation lab every year. We select 10 Black parents in California and we bring them together and we train them on how to take your idea about liberation from just an idea to actualizing it to a project or to some initiative or to campaigns. And so we give each Black parent who comes to our program $5,000 in the innovation lab to test their ideas. This is our fourth
Mhm.
cohort. So that's one of the ways that we're building community. It's about putting resources behind this idea of liberation because liberation ain't cheap and it's not free and it takes resources.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the ways that we're doing it. And I know folks are listening from all over. So the question was really how can they translate this personal liberation to collective? And one of the beautiful things about the last chapter in the book is it has a tool about how do you gather with like-minded folks? How do you gather with
Mhm.
like-minded parents?
Yeah.
Other parents who are also like, maybe you get together and you realize that there's some consistent problem that's happening with the school, and you're noticing that there's maybe some preferential or discriminatory treatment, and you
Hmm.
want to hold the school
Hmm.
accountable. Well, you need to have multiple people at the table to understand what's going on. So you got to get together and talk and create collective power by raising your voice and identifying who are the people who have the power. Is it the principal at the school, or is it the school administrator? Is it the superintendent? Like, do you need to go to the school board council meetings, right? Like, but you have to first come together and identify, because too often in isolation we think it's just us, it's just my
Yeah.
child, like I'm alone in this thing. And oftentimes you're not alone in this thing. And I would say the other beautiful thing is, I do this work in community with Black folks. And the work that I'm currently doing is really thinking about, and who are the other allies who have
Yeah.
power, who can leverage
Yeah.
their power for change, right?
Yeah.
Who has the connection? Who has the power and agency to get their foot in the door so then we can come behind them and be like, yeah, so here's the issue that's happening for our children or for our
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
And so I think that is really the way that you build collective power, is by actually coming together. We have to move out of isolation,
Yeah.
because that cliche is so true. Like, when we're divided, when we're not united, right? Like, divided we fall and united we win. And so I do believe that
Yes.
we have to come together. And I think that was the beautiful, powerful thing that we witnessed in 2020 when we were
Yeah.
all on lockdown and we were all dealing with the pandemic. And when the George Floyd murder happened, I saw
Hmm.
international collective liberation
Absolutely.
being
Yeah.
activated. And so that can't go away. And
Yeah.
right now, this moment in America, the political climate that we're in, we need people
Yes.
to still be activated on our behalf, because it's not time to like quiet down. It's time to like speak up and get louder, because the problems and the challenges and the power grabs and the struggles that we're experiencing have
Yeah.
impacts from the US to the UK.
Yeah.
Um, I appreciate that through social media and through Zoom and through these different connections, we're able to reach across borders and begin to support each
Yes.
other as people of color, as Black people, um, and folks who are oppressed. And so I think that's the power of collective, that you could do it even from your home. You can build collective.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm just going to kind of hone in on a couple of points that you made. One of them being, you know, there really is an international audience that are so keen on activism with all so many challenges that we have in the world right now. And I think your point on ensuring that we have the allies that are still speaking the language and wanting to openly support, that we can all be a step on the ladder to get us to the top, to get us to the right people who we want to be in front of, who we need to have those conversations for. And so, divided, we fall, but absolutely when we come together, we stand so much taller. And so, yeah, thank you for thank you for expressing that and the answer to that question. Um, okay, so your work centers so deeply around equity and collective liberation, which has been a thread through all of your answers, by the way, a beautiful thread through all of your answers, equity and collective liberation. How has your personal story, I hope you're okay with me asking you this, but how has your personal story shaped the way you lead and actually hold space for others?
yeah. So yeah, I'm happy that you asked that. Oftentimes people are asking like, how did I even get involved in this? And I think back to my childhood. I am a 1980s baby in
Yeah.
South Central Los Angeles in California specifically.
Okay.
And I don't know if a lot of people know about this in the UK, but folks in the US will know when I say 80s in Los Angeles, people know that there was a huge epidemic that impacted the Black community in Los Angeles. The war on drugs happened, there was the crack
Yes.
epidemic,
Yeah.
as that devoured our community, right? Prior
Yeah.
to that, very like prior to that happening in the 80s, there was a huge Black Power movement happening,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
The Black is Beautiful movement. My dad was a put your fist up kind of guy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that was what I knew prior to. That's what I knew, and
Yeah.
then growing up, as I became, a tween teen,
Hmm.
impact of the war on drugs on my community led to a lot of mass incarceration, a lot
Yeah.
of deaths, a lot of drug addiction, a lot of broken families, uh,
Yeah.
a lot of addiction, right? And so that is
Hmm.
foundational to my childhood. And the beauty of my father and my mother and my community is that because we were struggling with this, like directly, this was happening in my family.
Yeah.
It was
Hmm.
not, and these are people that I loved, people that I grew up with, people that took care of me. So there
Yeah.
was not a way that I could immediately see them as these criminals, because I was also the kid who was in the DARE program and the SANE program, which are the
Yeah.
programs run by the police at the schools
Hmm.
that are telling you to say no to drugs, and drugs are bad and people who do drugs are bad, and turn them in. There was no way for me to, I couldn't connect those two, because these are people who
Hmm.
raised me, who love me, who parent me, who are dealing with this. I could see their struggle with addiction.
Hmm.
And there was no way for me to see them as bad or criminal,
Yeah.
right? But that's how society framed them, as bad and criminal.
Yeah.
And now we fast forward to the current opioid epidemic, and no one's calling people who are addicted to drugs currently bad or criminal. And that's a
Yeah.
very racialized if you do the research.
Hmm.
Because who's
Hmm.
addicted and who's struggling now is not the same. But I will say that
Yeah.
that experience as a child is what shaped me to think about equity and justice, because I knew that a person who was struggling with addiction didn't deserve to go to jail because it wasn't going to fix them, because I seen people come in and out of jail and then go right back. They didn't get healed from their addiction, right? I'm like, this is a
Yeah.
medical condition, and our
Yes.
solution was jail. And so that disconnect for me is what always made me go like, why? And my dad always told me to
Mm.
ask why. Like, why is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Why are there more police here? So now, as I'm raising my child, when we're driving in the street, why are in some communities are there more police? Why in certain communities is there more trash on the ground? Why in certain communities are there, is there more broken windows? It's not because the people in that community are inherently bad. It's not because the people in that
Hmm.
community are not as deserving. It's because it's a systemic way that this community has been underserved, that resources are intentionally not driven into that community. And there's a way that resources are only provided in that community through policing and surveillance. So that was my childhood. So that informed and shaped a lot of how I see the world.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to see the people that looked like me and the people who were in my community, my neighbors, my dad, my uncles, my cousins, my brothers. These people were people who I loved. They're human.
Mm.
They were making mistakes. They were having struggles, but they weren't criminal. They weren't they weren't inherently bad that they couldn't be redeemed. And so
Yeah.
when I think about equity, when I think about justice, when I think about liberation, I think about, well, why didn't my people deserve medical treatment rather than
Hmm.
incarceration? Why weren't they redeemable? Why weren't they given a second chance? And so the work that I do now is about healing from all of that trauma, because that still lives there, all the trauma,
Yes.
the healing.
Yeah.
But also always asking the question, well, why is it set up that way? And who benefits from it being set up that way?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
always ask a lot of questions, which is why I love that my kid is curious, because curiosity is how you get to identifying the root causes of a problem
Yeah.
instead of just saying those people are the problem.
Hmm. Yeah. Indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful answer. And my last question, Trina. We often talk about, and I ask all of my guests this question, but we often talk about being hidden. So what part of your voice or identity once felt hidden, and what supported you to bring it forward and to be heard?
Hmm. You know, I feel like I'm a walking open book. Like, I talk about my life, I talk about my parenting, I talk about my childhood trauma. So I'm like, is there anything hidden? But I don't think it's hidden, but I'm sure like maybe a lot of people don't know. So um I have been in this journey of like expanding my identity around my queerness. I would say that's the thing that people would see as hidden. Um
Yeah,
and, and the beauty of it, it's not even about like, it's not, to me, queerness has been a beautiful journey in terms of
yeah,
exploring expansiveness, right? Like living
hmm,
beyond the binary, that it doesn't
yeah,
have to be only this or only that. As a person who, I said, I was always asking why and why does it have to
yeah,
be that way?
yeah,
It started to show up in that part of my identity, like, oh, you don't only have to, it's I only yes or no, it's not only blue or pink, it's not only, it's not only
yes,
these limited binary thinking. And so over time I've been queering everything, because I think queer is not just like, oh, I'm attracted to who, or it's not about just that. For me, queer
yeah,
is about um it's a politic to me. It's about
mhm,
challenging the status quo. It's about
yeah,
challenging the way that people think things have to be all the time. It's about, and to me, queerness looks like having a very blended family. To me, that's queer, because the
yeah,
typical is like a mother, a father, and the two children and the dog. That's the standard. But no, I've queered my family because my son has multiple, father figures, and we have a blended family, right? To me, that is already like, it's shifting from what is norm. That's what
yes,
I think of queerness as. It's like shifting from what is norm and typical and traditional. And I'm all about being expansive. So yeah, that is what I would say. Like, people don't know that I might, that there are people who might not know, like, oh, Trina identifies as queer, because I've been in heteronormative relationships. I've been married and all of that. But beyond
yeah,
that, my identity as a queer person is expanding and growing, even in the way that I parent. I parent in a way that people would say is different. It's not traditional.
Yeah,
It's queer to me, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so thinking about that, and just especially with the attacks that are happening now on queer rights and trans rights, a lot of
Hmm.
my community
Hmm.
has been under attack. So I want to unhide that identity, and stand in solidarity with my community, with my peeps, with my peers, um, because I think being queer and challenging the status quo is some of the most radical thing that you can do. Because
Yeah,
it's, to me, it's revolutionary to be in your body and to be who you want to be, regardless of what society says that you should be. It takes a lot of power and strength, and some of the most powerful, resilient, joyful, beautiful people I know are in the queer community. So I'll,
yeah.
I'll say that.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And you know what I love, Trina? What I love about your answer to that question is you're refusing to be put in anybody's tick box or checklist. Like you're living a life that really reflects who you are becoming and who you want to be. And I think that when we hear these messages and the message that you've so eloquently put about the blended family and your queerness, you're giving other people permission to talk about theirs. And I think that, in this work that we do, hidden to heard is all about, this part that we think, we perceive we should keep hidden. But the minute we allow others to hear it, it's like, okay, I feel like I can talk about my stuff too now.
Yeah.
And that really is, it's the revolution and it's the evolution.
Yes. As the teenagers do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, the evolution. Yes.
Right? And so I love that. Thank you so much for bringing all of you, your hidden, your heard, what you've done in the community, what you continue to do in terms of growing and really being that the individual and your community are about, equitable living for all. And I think that that's a beautiful message to have and to continue to grow. And so, if somebody wanted to buy a copy of your book, where would they go?
Yes. So if you want, I always recommend, please, 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 as much as you can, order from a small Black owned or community owned or women owned or queer owned bookstore in your neighborhood. And they
Okay.
might not
Yeah.
have it, but they can always order a copy to you there. So that's
Yeah.
my first. I'm like, buy it local, buy it from community, because
Yeah.
stores are becoming obsolete. And if you're like, actually, you don't want to buy it, you want to like rent it or borrow it, then talk to your local library. They could also order it as well. I'm all about getting things out to community.
Beautiful.
And the other source, Feminist Press, is my publisher. You can always order it directly from them. And then it's
Hmm.
also at all the other places that you could buy books. You can order it on Barnes and Nobles. You can order it on Amazon. Um, but that's, that's
Yeah.
a scenario. Let's support those small businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know you're
Absolutely.
doing raffles or something I saw, and I'll raffle one off as well.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, lovely. I'm going to put that in the show notes. And if people want to find out more about what you do, where can they connect with you, Trina?
Yeah, so our website is parentingforliberation.org. We're also on Instagram as our most active platform.
Okay.
Instagram /parenting for liberation. Yeah. And if you want to like just hit us up, like you have questions, you're interested in collaborating, or you're like, I want more of this, you can always email us. The email address that will get you to the right channels is info at parentingforliberation.org.
Okay, beautiful, amazing. And everything that you said, no worries, because I will take that information and it will go at the bottom of the show reel. So whoever's listening can reach out, can contact, can get your book locally, but they'll have all the information that they need from you. So I just want to say, two hands on my heart, it's been incredible. I knew it would be. And continue with the work that you're doing because the world needs it. And yeah, so much love for you and what you do. Take care.
Thank you so much for hosting these conversations. for making sure that the voices that are hidden are being heard. I think that's really important. And thank you for sharing your story and having that be your way of inviting more women to share their stories. So thank you for modeling and being a leader in this storytelling journey.